So where was the front of the house?
Further up the hill. The deck finished at that face, that masonry face there.
And this curling is from the heat of the fire, so just sort of melted onto itself.
Yes.
Jack Egan's home was in one of the areas that was worst affected by this season's fires. Egan lived here with his partner, Cath Bowdler, who's owned the house for 15 years.
At 6 o'clock in the morning, everybody in the street got a text saying there's a fire coming through Mogo, which is about 10 kilometres to the east of us, and it's heading your way. Enact your fire plan now. Our plan was to stay and defend.
So you were ready for a fire?
Yes. We've had the tank for some years, but we installed a good pump.
But it wasn't enough?
Even with a fire hose, you could not stand and hold it. After the radiant heat got too much, I went inside our house.
You went inside your house while it was on fire?
Well, it was only starting to catch fire on the edge. Some smoke had got in and the fire alarm inside went off, which made it a bit more difficult to think. I tried to get that off the ceiling and so on, but I didn't have any tools.
So you were in a burning house trying to turn off the fire alarm?
Yeah, I gave up and thought, I'll just have to put that out of my mind.
So then you ran into your neighbour's house?
Yes, sheltered there. After a couple of minutes, I looked out the front window to see what was happening. Saw the front deck was pretty seriously on fire now, and there was no prospect of saving the house. It was going to get burned now.
So at that point, you knew that you were not going to save your house?
Yes. I knew that if I didn't make sound decisions that it would hurt, I'd get burnt and then I would die.
There is a spot right up on top of the ridge. That's also a priority for some buckets, please.
Across Australia, 34 people died and more than 3,500 homes were destroyed in the bushfires. Nearly 500 million animals were killed and a fifth of the country's forests burnt. Ian Egan is a captain in the New South Wales Rural Fire Service, the world's largest volunteer firefighting force. He's worked more than 4 months to tackle the fires.
Everything we're looking at is burnt, everything. There's nothing north of here that's not burnt.
You've been part of the fire brigade for almost 20 years now.
Yep.
Have you seen anything like this?
Nothing like this. You could have 1,000 fire trucks, wouldn't have been enough. It just wouldn't have been enough.
While the most intense fires seen earlier in the season have now died down, teams of firefighters are busy trying to prevent more from taking hold. These volunteers are conducting a backburn, when they light a fire in order to burn off dry, flammable grass and trees, in order to prevent the current bushfires from spreading uncontrollably to these areas.
They're lighting up in spots. They've come up from the top and they're just going, they'll light that part in there. They'll wait, let it go in for about 5 to 10 metres.
Look how quickly it's going up. Would a natural bushfire look similar to this?
Yep.
And this is with virtually no breeze. So if there was
There's no breeze and it's creating its own, it's drawing in, and if that wind would slightly turn just a little bit, we wouldn't be standing here.
Once our humidity gets to 40%, we start reducing our spotting distance.
So far, so good.
So far, so good, yeah.
Thousands of volunteers have been involved in the battle. But while scientists have warned Australia is getting hotter, making fire seasons more intense, some of those on the front line don't agree climate change is to blame.
How much of a role do you think climate change plays?
You want me to answer that honestly?
I do.
None.
None?
None. The thing to climate change is really, really minimal. And the way that I look at climate change started the day the Ice Age finished. So once the Ice Age finished, I believe that it all started to get warmer. And of course, as the ice caps and everything else melt that we can't stop, it just projects even quicker.
You seem to be aware that that's a controversial answer.
Yes.
Why is that?
Oh, I don't know. It's just my belief.
You're aware that it's not the most common or mainstream belief?
Is it?
Well, you seemed hesitant to answer that way.
Or is it what press push?
Why would the press push that?
Because it's what the Greenies and that want to listen to.
You think the Greenies make up the majority? Is that why?
No, they don't. They're a minority group.
And yet the press, you think the press is catering to them?
Oh, well, politics is too. And right through politics. Listen to a lot of minority groups instead of sometimes listening to facts.
That's a view shared in Australia's highest office.
Mr. Speaker, this is coal. Don't be afraid.
The
Don't be scared.
Treasurer knows the rule on crops.
It's coal.
Scott Morrison was an advocate for the coal industry long before he became Prime Minister. And he won the 2019 election on a platform of putting Australian jobs before climate change policy. Australia is one of the world's top emitters of greenhouse gases per capita, yet depends economically on coal. 60% of Australia's electricity is generated by coal power stations. And coal contributes nearly $40 billion to the Australian economy. So it's not surprising that people in mining towns like Claremont are hugely protective of this fossil fuel industry.
And can I have 2 schooners of blackfish?
Roger Vine owns the local pub. It's where miners come at the end of the shift.
And my wife's up me because I buy all these really nice whiskies. And she says, you're buying all these expensive whiskies, but you're not selling any. You're drinking them.
I think when you own a pub, you're allowed that.
Despite protests, the Australian government gave the go-ahead to Indian conglomerate Adani to open the country's biggest ever coal mine 130 miles from here.
If you want to protest against coal, turn all your lights off. You know, if you want to be fair dinkum, turn all your lights off, turn your bloody phones off, turn all the other crap off, go and buy a Tesla, and good luck.
So you're saying if you use electricity, then you shouldn't impose coal?
No. If you want to have a solar system on your roof and a battery, good on you. If you want to do your bit for the environment and you think that makes a difference, get into it.
So what do you think about climate change?
I think climate's changing. I don't think it's ever stopped. I don't think it'll ever finish.
And you don't think that the bushfires are climate change related?
God, no. That bushfire's here for millennia.
You're going to build a fireproof house and just keep weathering the fires as they come?
Yeah. I think it's one of the things, if you're going to live in a forest, you have to accept that. But I want to build a kind of house that, you know, if there's a fire coming, you can shut it and go away and come back and hopefully it'll be okay.
When do you think this area will recover?
Oh, there's gorgeous green shoots happening even as we speak. You know, the bush, they use this term resilient all the time about people and things, but the bush is really resilient.
You both sound quite optimistic about change, but at the same time, quite realistic about the obstacles before that.
This is too much. We've got to change, and we've all got to be on board with the change. Otherwise, we all go down. There's no politics in catastrophe.